Have you ever wondered what it really looks like when someone who usually keeps their distance starts to love you? Not the movie kind of love, not the sweeping, dramatic, can't live without you kind. I'm talking about the quiet kind, the kind that sneaks in, changes the air in the room, but almost no one notices it happening. Because here's the truth, avoidants don't fall in love the way you think they do. You're expecting fireworks, and they're just trying to find peace. You're waiting for the grand gesture, and they're giving you stillness. You're looking for the words, and they're showing you something entirely different presence. See, most of us are taught that love should look obvious. It should sound loud. We think love announces itself. We believe when someone loves us, we'll know because they'll say it or they'll prove it. But for someone who's spent their whole life protecting themselves from closeness, love doesn't roar. It whispers, and that whisper, that's where the miracle is. Let me tell you something. When someone with an avoidant attachment style starts to love, they're not trying to make it look good. They're trying to make it feel safe. Now, maybe you've been with someone like this. Maybe you've felt at that distance that drives you crazy. They pull back when you want to get close. They go quiet when you want to talk. And you tell yourself, if they really loved me, they wouldn't do this. But here's what I want you to hear today. Sometimes the people who seem the most distant are the ones who love the deepest. They just love differently. I remember the first time I learned this. I was watching someone close to me, strong, independent, always fine. You know the type. The kind of person who handles everything alone. They don't ask for help, they don't cry in front of anyone, and they sure as hell don't say, I need you. But one day, something shifted. It wasn't a speech, it wasn't a confession. It was a moment, quiet, small, and so real. They stayed. They didn't walk away when things got hard. They didn't hide behind, I'm busy or I'm fine. They stayed. And that's when I realized that's what love looks like for them. Not fireworks, not a flood of words, just a steady, quiet decision to stay. So today, I want to show you what real love looks like for someone who's avoidant, not in theory, but in practice. Because it doesn't look like the movies. It looks like peace. It looks like safety. It looks like the moment someone who's been running their whole life finally decides to stop. If you've ever loved someone like that or been someone like that, this conversation is for you. Because the truth is, once you understand what love actually looks like for them, you stop feeling so confused. You stop taking their distance personally. You start to see what's really happening underneath. So stay with me, because over the next half hour, we're going to unpack it. All the fears, the walls, the small acts that mean everything. And by the end, you'll see that love isn't always about passion or performance. Sometimes it's about peace. And for an avoidant, peace is love. Before we can recognize what love looks like for someone who's avoidant, we've got to understand why they love the way they do. Because nothing changes until you understand the story underneath the behavior. Let's get real for a second. Nobody wakes up one day and decides, you know what? I'm going to build walls around my heart. No one chooses that. Those walls were built out of survival. Avoidant attachment isn't about being cold, unfeeling, or selfish. It's about safety. It's about growing up in an environment where closeness felt dangerous or unpredictable or fleeting. Maybe love was conditional. Maybe emotions weren't welcome. Maybe they learned that depending on someone was just another way to get hurt. So they did what smart, resourceful kids do. They adapted. They learned to rely on themselves. They learned to stay strong, to keep things private, to avoid chaos by avoiding emotion. They became the calm ones, the composed ones, the ones who never seem shaken. And you know what? It worked. It protected them. But here's the catch. That same strategy that kept them safe as children now keeps them stuck as adults. Because you can't build intimacy from behind armor. You can't feel loved when you don't feel safe enough to be seen. And this is what's so misunderstood about avoidant people. When you love one, it's easy to think they don't care. It's easy to believe the distance means disinterest. But what's really happening is that their nervous system is sounding the alarm. To them, closeness feels like a threat. Their body literally reads intimacy as danger. It's not about you. It's about the years they spent learning that the safest place in the world was alone. So when love shows up, when you show up, it doesn't feel like a gift. It feels like a test. Their brain says, don't trust this. Don't get too close. Don't lose control. That's why avoidant people are some of the bravest people I know. Because for them, letting someone in isn't a natural reflex. It's an act of courage. Every time they stay, every time they share, every time they open up, they are fighting the part of their brain that tells them, run. And if you've ever been on the other side of that, if you've ever loved an avoidant person, I know it can hurt. I know it can feel like rejection. But I want you to hear this loud and clear. It's not rejection. It's regulation. They're not pushing you away because you're unworthy of love. They're pushing you away because closeness feels unsafe and their body is trying to survive. When you understand that, compassion replaces confusion. You stop asking, why don't they love me the way I love them? And you start asking, what makes love feel safe for them? And that's the shift. That's where the healing starts. Because now you're not fighting their defenses, you're helping their nervous system find peace. When you begin to see the avoidant not as distant, but as defending, something inside you changes. You stop chasing. You start understanding. And in that understanding, you create the one thing they've never truly had, safety. And that safety, that's the beginning of real love. Now that we understand why avoidants love the way they do, let's talk about how that love actually shows up. Because this is where so many people get it wrong. When an avoidant person starts to fall in love, it doesn't look like what you've seen in movies. It's not passion that knocks you off your feet. It's not grand declarations or surprise confessions. It's not them suddenly saying, you're my everything. It's subtle. It's quiet. It's steady. And it's real. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, love doesn't come wrapped in excitement. It comes wrapped in safety. And that's what makes it powerful. Because the truth is, when they love you, they're not chasing butterflies, they're chasing peace. Let's break this down because I want you to see it. Ain, quite over loud. Love for an avoidant rarely starts with fireworks. It starts with consistency. It's the way they keep showing up, the way they stay just a little longer in conversation, the way they start to linger in the doorway when they used to rush out. You might not even notice it at first, but they do. Because for them, staying is a declaration. Silence is safety. When they stop running, that's their version of saying, I care. 2, safety over excitement. Avoidants aren't looking for adrenaline. They're looking for calm. Excitement can feel unstable, and instability feels unsafe. So instead of you make my heart race, their love says, you help my heart slow down. That's powerful. Because for someone who's always lived in self-protection mode, peace is the greatest gift love can give. When they start associating you with that peace, you become something sacred, not because you thrill them, but because you soothe them. 3, small acts over grand gestures. You know what else? Avoidants rarely love with fireworks. They love with details. The small, consistent gestures that other people might overlook, those are their love letters. They'll fix the thing that's been broken. They'll remember that tiny detail you mentioned weeks ago. They'll quietly do something to make your life easier. And they won't make a big deal about it. Because for them, saying I love you with words might feel too raw, but doing something for you, that's safe. That's their language. Don't miss those gestures. Don't take them for granted. Because when an avoidant gives you effort, they're giving you access, and that's not something they give easily. 4, space over cling. This one's important. Love for an avoidant isn't about merging. It's about maintaining space while staying connected. When they love you, they don't want to disappear into the relationship. They want to stand beside you. They need space, not to escape love, but to sustain it. You might think distance means disinterest, but for them, it's oxygen. It's how they recharge so they can come back to you with a calm heart. If you can learn to see that space not as rejection, but as regulation, you'll stop chasing and start respecting. And that is what helps love grow. 5, stay overrun. This is the biggest one. The truest sign of love for an avoidant isn't in what they say, it's in what they don't do. When conflict happens and they stay in the room instead of shutting down, that's love. When they pause instead of leaving, that's love. When they text back, even though they'd rather retreat, that's love. Because every time they choose connection over avoidance, they're rewriting their own emotional wiring. They're proving to themselves that love doesn't have to mean pain. So if you're with someone who's avoidant, learn to notice the quiet bravery in their staying. Because staying, for them, is a revolution. And if you're the avoidant, hear me. Every time you resist the urge to run, every time you choose to breathe instead of bolt, every time you share instead of shut down, you're healing something generations deep. That's what real love looks like for you. Not losing yourself in someone, but finding safety in connection. So if you've ever looked at an avoidant and thought, they don't love me, maybe what's really happening is that they're loving you in the only way they know how. Slowly, quietly, but with everything they've got. That's the kind of love that doesn't explode. It endures. All right? Now that you know what love looks like for an avoidant person, quiet, safe, steady, let's go deeper, because you might be missing the signs right in front of you. When an avoidant starts to fall in love, they don't hand you a declaration. They hand you moments, small, consistent, ordinary moments that if you're not paying attention, you'll completely overlook. But those moments, they're everything. So let's talk about what to look for. Let's talk about how to recognize real love when it's quiet. 1, they initiate contact even just a little. This might seem small, a text, a check-in, a call after a long day. But for an avoidant, reaching out is not casual, it's vulnerable. It means their brain, which usually says, don't need anyone, has started whispering, you're safe with this person. So when they message first, even if it's just, did you get home okay? That's not small talk. That's trust in motion. 2, they share a personal detail. When an avoidant tells you something real, a story from childhood, a fear, a regret that's not random, that's sacred because they've learned their whole life to keep that door locked. When they open it, even for a second, they're saying, I want you to know me. And listen, they're watching what you do next. If you rush to fix or minimize or dismiss, the door closes. But if you just listen, if you stay steady and kind, the door opens a little wider. That's how you build emotional safety. That's how you help love grow. 3, they make space for you. Avoidants guard their routines like fortresses, their time, their solitude, their independence. That's their safety net. So when they start rearranging it, when they include you in their plans or carve out time to see you, you need to understand how big that is. They're not just scheduling a date. They're inviting you into their world. They're saying, you matter enough to disrupt my comfort zone. That's love. 4, they stay when it's uncomfortable. This one matters the most because love for an avoidant isn't proven in easy moments. It's revealed in the hard ones. When conflict happens, when tension rises, when their instinct screams, get out, but they stay, that's love. Even if they're quiet, even if it's messy, even if it takes time for them to speak. Their presence is their commitment. And you might not realize it in the moment, but every time they choose to stay, they're rewriting a lifetime of programming that told them love is unsafe. So don't look for perfect words, look for effort. 5, they begin to show care in subtle, practical ways. They might not flood you with affection, but you'll notice little things. The way they remember what you like, fix something that's been bothering you, or check in when you're stressed. That's not random. That's love in their language. Because for avoidance, doing often feels safer than saying. So when they show up with your favorite coffee or handle something small for you, that's not just helpful, it's emotional intimacy disguised as action. 6, they relax around you. Watch their body language. Avoidants are tense by habit, always scanning for danger, always ready to pull back. But when they start to love you, something in them softens. Their shoulders drop, their breathing slows. They laugh more, they stay longer, they exhale. That's not just comfort, that's transformation. You've become a place where their nervous system can rest. And that, my friend, is what love feels like for an avoidant. The ability to breathe next to someone and not feel the need to run. You see, we keep looking for love that's loud, but the love that lasts is usually quiet. So stop asking, why don't they show me? And start noticing, how do they stay with me? Because that's where the truth is. When you can recognize love in the small, unspoken, steady things, you stop missing the miracles. And when you stop missing the miracles, you start to receive love for what it really is. Not a performance, not a chase, not a fix, but a presence. That's how you know an avoidant is falling in love. Not because they said it, because they stayed long enough for you to feel it. Now that you can recognize what love looks like for an avoidant, the real question becomes, what do you do with that knowledge? Because understanding someone's patterns means nothing if you don't know how to meet them where they are. See, love with an avoidant isn't about fixing them. It's about creating safety. And safety, not romance, not pressure, not intensity, is what makes connection grow. So if you want to love someone who's avoidant, or if you're realizing that you are the avoidant, listen closely. Because what I'm about to share with you can change the entire way you relate, not just to them, but to yourself. Let's talk about how to respond, how to show up in a way that keeps love alive instead of triggering fear. Tool 1, create emotional safety. First and most important, don't rush their heart. Avoidants move at the pace of trust, not time. You can't demand vulnerability from someone whose nervous system still associates closeness with danger. So stop trying to pry them open. Stop asking for big words before they're ready. Instead, show them consistency, calm, presence. You create safety by being predictable, not perfect. By showing them that emotions don't have to explode, they can unfold. And when you stop chasing and start allowing, something incredible happens. Their walls start to come down, not because you broke them, but because they chose to. Tool 2, celebrate the small actions. When an avoidant gives you effort, it's not small, it's sacred. If they reach out first, linger a little longer, or share a personal story, notice it. You don't have to throw a parade, but acknowledge it. A simple, I appreciate that is enough. Because for an avoidant, every little act of closeness costs courage. And when you notice it without judgment, without demand, they feel seen in a way they've never been seen before. Remember this, what you reward grows. So reward calm, reward connection, reward their staying, even when it's awkward or quiet. That's how you teach the nervous system that love is safe. Tool 3, communicate your needs clearly. Avoidants are not mind readers, and neither are you. If you need something, say it, but say it from clarity, not from panic. Instead of, why don't you ever open up, try, I feel closer when we share things about our day. Instead of, you don't care, try, when you go quiet, I start to worry. Can you tell me what you need when that happens? See the difference? That's not confrontation, that's communication. Avoidants don't need you to walk on eggshells. They just need you to talk like someone who's safe. Tool 4, stay present through conflict. This is where most relationships fall apart, the moment conflict hits. Avoidants want to retreat, and the other person often wants to chase. But here's the truth. Both of those reactions are fear in disguise. The key is to stay in the room, literally and emotionally. If they start to withdraw, stay calm. Don't explode. Don't guilt. Don't beg. Say, I can tell you need space. I'll be here when you're ready. And mean it, because when they see that you can tolerate their silence without falling apart, they begin to trust that connection doesn't equal chaos. That's when real communication begins. Tool sync. Align your expectations. Listen, an avoidant may never love you the way you imagine love should look. They may not flood your inbox with messages. They may not gush with emotion. But if you slow down, you'll realize they're loving you in ways that last longer than passion, through reliability, thoughtfulness, and peace. So instead of waiting for grand gestures, start noticing the small ones. Instead of craving intensity, start valuing consistency. Because love that's sustainable isn't about being overwhelmed. It's about being understood. Let's make this practical. Take 5 minutes today, right after you finish watching this, and write down one small thing your partner or even you have done lately that showed care. Just one. Then ask yourself, how did I respond to it? Did you miss it? Did you dismiss it? Did you rush past it? If so, you can change that. You can choose to notice, to appreciate, to respond with calm instead of demand. That's how you turn understanding into transformation. Because the truth is, love isn't found in the grand moments, it's built in the quiet ones. The moments you choose, patience instead of pressure, understanding instead of reaction. And that's how you help an avoidant person or your avoidant self step into love that finally feels safe enough to stay. Let's get honest for a second. Even when we mean well, we mess this part up. We misread, overreact, or try to fix what doesn't need fixing. And if you've ever loved an avoidant person, you've probably made one of these mistakes, not because you didn't care, but because you didn't understand. But after today, you will. Because I'm going to walk you through the biggest traps people fall into when they're trying to love someone who fears closeness and exactly how to avoid them. Mistake has shown. Interpreting silence as rejection. Silence doesn't always mean I don't care. Sometimes it means I'm overwhelmed. Sometimes it means I'm regulating. Avoidants retreat not to punish you, but to calm themselves. They grew up in chaos. So their quiet is not a weapon, it's their refuge. When they go silent, your instinct might be to fill the space, to talk more, text more, demand reassurance. But the truth, that pressure feels like danger to them. So instead of assuming rejection, breathe, give space. Let silence do its job to bring calm back into connection. That pause, that stillness can be the bridge that leads them back to you. Mistake, #2, demanding big emotional moments. You know what kills safety for an avoidant faster than anything? Pressure to perform emotionally. Tell me how you feel. Why don't you open up? Why can't you just say you love me? Every one of those sentences sounds like an invitation, but to them it feels like interrogation. You're not wrong for wanting connection, but the way you ask for it matters. So instead of demanding emotion, create moments where emotion feels safe. Share first. Model it. Say, I love how calm I feel when we're together. Say, it means a lot that you stayed through that hard conversation. That's how you teach emotional expression, not through pressure, but through permission. Mistake #3, trying to fix or heal them. This is the one that breaks hearts quietly. Because so many people enter relationships with avoidance thinking, if I love them enough, they'll change. But love isn't about rescue. You can't outlove someone's trauma. You can only stand beside them as they learn to heal it themselves. When you start trying to fix, you stop listening. When you take responsibility for their growth, you rob them of it. Your job is not to pull them through their walls. Your job is to stand steady enough that they start choosing to walk through those walls on their own. That's love. That's respect. Mistake #4, taking distance personally. Distance is the avoidance way of breathing. It's how they reset. But when you make that distance about you, everything collapses. You start spinning. Did I say something wrong? Are they losing interest? Should I chase? And before you know it, you're doing the very thing that makes them pull away, chasing closeness while they're craving space. Here's what you do instead. Acknowledge it calmly. I can tell you need some time. That's okay. I'll be here. Then go live your life. That's confidence. That's grounded love. That's the energy that says, you're free to come back, and I'm strong enough to stay steady. And trust me, that steadiness is magnetic. Because avoidants don't run from calm, they run from chaos. Mistake #5, mistaking peace for boredom. This one's sneaky. Because after all that emotional turbulence, when things finally feel peaceful, you might think something's wrong. But peace doesn't mean passion's gone. It means your nervous system's finally catching up to safety. So don't sabotage the calm because you're addicted to intensity. Stillness is not emptiness, it's healing. When an avoidant starts to relax into peace with you, that's when real intimacy begins. You see, the biggest mistake we make in love, especially with people who have avoidant patterns, is assuming love should look like drama or chasing or endless talking. But real love, it's built on emotional safety, not emotional noise. So if you can remember this, silence doesn't mean reaction. Space doesn't mean distance. Peace doesn't mean indifference. Then you'll finally stop reacting to the surface and start responding to the truth underneath it all. And that truth is this: avoidants don't need fixing. They need safety. They don't need rescuing. They need patience. And most of all, they don't need intensity. They need presence. Take a deep breath. You've just walked through the quiet, powerful world of what love really looks like for someone who's avoidant. And if there's one thing I hope you've heard in all of this, it's that love doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. We've been taught to believe that love is supposed to feel like fireworks, loud, dramatic, constant sparks. But for some people, for avoidance, love doesn't explode. It settles. It softens the edges. It creates calm where there used to be chaos. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Because real love isn't about intensity. It's about stability. Now listen to me. If you've been chasing the wrong kind of love, the kind that drains you or confuses you or leaves you wondering if you're enough, I want you to know right now, you are. You don't have to prove your worth to be loved. You just have to understand the language of the person in front of you and decide whether that language is one you can grow fluent in. And if you're the avoidant, if you're hearing this and realizing that's me, I'm the one who keeps distance. I'm the one who disappears. I need you to know this. Nothing about you is broken. You learned to protect yourself because you had to. But now you get to choose something different. You get to choose connection without losing control. You get to stay even when it's uncomfortable. You get to love without fear that love will take something from you. That's what healing looks like. It's not instant. It's not perfect. It's just choosing again and again to stay when every instinct says run. And if you're loving someone who's avoidant, your power isn't in convincing them, it's in embodying calm. Because when you show them peace, they start to believe that love can coexist with safety. That's the beginning of change. So here's what I want you to do. This is your action moment. Tonight, before you go to bed, I want you to take 5 minutes, think about someone you love. Maybe it's your partner, maybe it's yourself, and ask this question. What does safety look like for them? And what does safety look like for me? Write it down, because that answer will tell you everything about how to move forward, how to connect, how to repair, how to love in a way that lasts. You don't need to fix anyone. You don't need to chase anyone. You don't need to earn love. You just need to understand that real love, the kind that stays, feels like peace. When you learn to recognize that peace, you stop mistaking quiet for emptiness, space for rejection, or calm for disinterest. You start realizing that sometimes the most passionate thing someone can do is stay not because they have to, but because they finally want to. That's love. That's healing. That's what freedom in connection looks like. So as you leave this talk, I want you to carry this truth with you. You are worthy of a love that feels safe. You are capable of giving a love that feels steady. And if you've spent your life running from closeness, today can be the day you take one small, brave step toward it. Because love, real love isn't loud. It's honest. It's calm. It's choosing connection over and over again until peace becomes the loudest thing in the room. And that is how an avoidant learns to love quietly, steadily, beautifully, and for real.